So if you're anything like me, the moment powerslap is even mentioned, it's instant neuron deactivation. Like an ad comes up during a UFC broadcast, brain completely shuts off. Powerslap somehow ends up on my Instagram feed, instant swipe away with no second thoughts. The idea of powerslap just at that conceptual level makes me feel as brain dead as any of the competitors will be in 10 years when their CTE riddled brains is counting up the 5 figures they made during their slapping career. But after Volt capturing the title again and me just generally being in a good mood, I thought, you know what? I've been judging powerslap extremely harshly and I haven't even given it a chance. So you know what? Let's put our slapping hats on, turn on an event, and see if powerslap is really as bad as everyone thinks it is. So the first point of call is to actually learn the rules of powerslap, and I did not realize, but holy heck, there are a lot of rules to powerslap. Like, the rules document is literally 4,000 words long, which seems absurdly long for a sport that is essentially two people taking turns to slap each other. So instead of brushing up on the rules because, you know, I'm trying to be an authentic powerslap fan here, therefore I can't read, I'm going to jump straight into watching an event and figuring it out as we go along. So one thing I didn't realize is that now powerslap is live and free on YouTube. I feel like whenever a formerly premium event is relegated to being live and free on YouTube, that is generally a sign that something has gone wrong. Like, it's great for consumers, no doubt, but it's almost never a decision a group of executives are actively wanting to make. But in this case, coming from Rumble, this is actually a supreme glow up in terms of the distribution platform of powerslap. Let's just ignore being dropped by TBS after one season. The first thing I noticed upon turning on powerslap is just how professional and clean the production is. Like, I actually think in terms of their on-screen graphics, presentation, this is pretty much on the level with the average UFC event. This is not a compliment, by the way. It is jarring turning on a program about slap fighting of all things and being met with the aesthetics of a corporate slideshow on stakeholder value. This was not expected or welcomed. I understand the desire to try and polish up the inherent perception of slap fighting, but they are going way too far in the wrong direction. I'm not the target audience for this sport, but I'd imagine you aren't capturing those who would be. It's so strange as well because the UFC itself have built the framework for cleaning up the perception of a sport. The UFC in the early-ish days produced its product and marketed it as pretty much a blood sport. But through that they gained that core audience, and once that core Just Blade audience was captured, they then started slowly cleaning up the sport, the production, and marketing it into a legitimate sport. Without that foundational Just Blade audience, the UFC would have never had that safety net to start their shift into an ESPN broadcast sport. I feel like powerslap just needs to be this crazy spectacle with ridiculous graphics and a circus-like production. It just needs to be fun. It's people slapping each other. No one is like, I thought this sport would be dumb, but it's packaged like a PowerPoint presentation, so I think it's legit now. No one is thinking like this, but if it was produced kinda crazy, and dare I say again, more fun, I guarantee you there is an audience there to capture which you can leverage into a growth phase. Know your audience and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so we yapped on and ranted about the production for a bit too long. We haven't even gotten to the actual slapping part yet, so I'm going to watch this event, powerslap 12, and give my thoughts along the way and help it pull together my thoughts on powerslap in general. So I've just watched a full powerslap card and here are my observations. Firstly, this sport is not designed for a 2.5 hour long card. With MMA, you can get away with a long card. It's never preferable, but you can definitely do it because any two MMA fights are never the same. There are so many factors, different outcomes, different techniques to use, which makes every fight unique. With powerslap, you can only do one of two things. A, slap, and B, get slapped. After like 2 matches, as they're called, you've already experienced everything powerslap has to offer. There were 8 matches on this card and I was dead bored by the 3rd. What also doesn't help is that powerslap is next to entirely dependent on a knockout for any entertainment value at all. This card had 4 decisions, which is 50% of the card, and there is next to no intrigue by the time that decision comes around. Having to listen to the results of a 10-point must system bastardized into slap fighting isn't exactly edge of your seat entertainment. I think this is primarily because there is just no nuance in the sport. The criteria of judging is essentially who slapped the other the hardest and who took slaps the best. When there isn't a knockout, the level of excitement is pretty stagnant. You can usually tell after the first round of slapping who is going to win as well as how, and this really does eliminate any excitement outside of waiting for a predictable result. The sport is inherently limited in strategy, so there is no room within the confines of what the sport is to allow for strategic shifts that lead to late rallies or comebacks. The next thing I noticed is that they are just making up the rules as they go or figuring out the interpretation just on vibes. Flinching and stepping is sort of a big thing. It plays a large part in the decision if the match goes to the slap judges, and if the flinch is egregious enough, you give a freak slap to your opponent. So it is a big factor in the results of these slap matches, but there is no uniformity on what constitutes a flinch. I watched Paige Van Zandt flinch much worse than other flinches that were given, and this really isn't a criticism of the referees. That is a crazy position to be put in. One day you're just reffing MMA as per usual, and then all of a sudden you're dropped into slap fighting of all things, given a 4,000 word document on the rules and told to make sense of this crazy spectacle, but in a sporting sense. But yeah, whenever there's no uniformity in the rules in a sports league, especially when it's presented as corporate and clean as powerslap, it just makes the product feel even cheaper than it already is. The last thing that killed the entertainment factor of powerslap for me is the fighters themselves. While I don't think an entertaining and diverse cast of strikers, as they're called, would overcome the hurdle of the sport itself in the sense of saving its entertainment value, it can definitely sink it more into the mud, which they do. Without exception, I only see two types of participants in powerslap, at least for this event which I watched. One group which are intolerable, annoying, and not even in a I would like to watch you get knocked out kind of way, more like the fact you are on my TV is crushing the vibes of my household at the moment kind of way. And the next group, which is just people I feel really bad for. Seemingly decent people that are clearly there just for a paycheck, that are so down in their luck that they have to sacrifice all of their pride, self-respect, and brain cells for not a proportionate amount of money. Again, because at least on this event, every slapper fitted into one of these two camps, every match left me feeling a bit bummed out, because either some douche won, which is obviously annoying, and some like dude with a family got KO'd by a slap, which will now live forever on Dana White's Instagram, or some dude I'm just empathetic for is just taking irreversible damage. After watching a full powerslap event, I can comfortably say that this will not exist in 5 years' time, and if it does, it will be in a vastly different format to what it is now. The weird corporate juxtaposition of powerslap and its presentation, if I'm going to speculate, is only there for Dana to try and pass on this turd of a product to some ill-researched and overly ambitious investor or media company to offload it to. The product of slap fighting can have a place in the combat entertainment sphere, but to present it like it's a highbrow sport or even a sport in general is just not a smart decision. You're not going to capture that audience that are tailor-made for slap fighting because how you are producing the product is so boring and far removed from the values, I guess, of this audience. And you're also not going to capture that audience who are looking for a clean, sanitized sports league to follow, because no matter how corporate you dress it up, it's still fundamentally slap fighting. So there we have it. That's my journey into watching a power slap event. I wasn't impressed, I will likely never watch it again, and I'm still baffled that any decision surrounding this organization was made at all without anyone saying, huh? I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you all in my next video.